What must young entrepreneurs know before they build a company? It is the very first lesson they teach about entrepreneurship. And yet, it is also the lesson that most modern-day, young entrepreneurs ignore. It goes something like, businesses solve problems. So find a problem and solve it. Sounds simple enough, but there is a subtle nuance that they aren't teaching that makes all the difference. The best entrepreneurs design solutions to problems they understand better than anyone else in the world. Here's how: business from a scientific perspective. Whether they know it or not, many entrepreneurs have begun to approach business from a scientific perspective. Personally, at an early age, I wanted to be a doctor. I consumed a plethora of books about medicine, and signed up for as many science classes as I could. In every science class one have taken, the very first lesson has been the scientific method. Pounded into our psyche, year after year, was the following process: ask a question, do research, form a hypothesis, test the hypothesis, and then either draw conclusions or reframe the hypothesis. What occurred to me a few months ago is that I have been subconsciously applying the same methodology to business and entrepreneurship. I have looked at an industry, done a bit of research, made a hypothesis in the form of a unique business model or novel solution, which typically connect otherwise disjointed industries or, perhaps, which fill a void, and then I go out and test that hypothesis. After testing it and seeing how people, entrepreneurs, customers, investors, and clients respond, we either draw a positive conclusion and push forward or, in entrepreneurship lingo, we iterate. We iterate like crazy. We don't stop iterating, ever. All we do is iterate, and it's becoming a bit of a joke. Business is about designing solutions, not theorizing. While I acknowledge now that this method can work and has worked, I also acknowledge that it is a circuitous, roundabout, time-consuming, and somewhat stressful path as compared to the alternative approach that I'm about to explain. Not only that, but it is also a path that relies more on luck than that with which any knowledgeable businessman should ever feel comfortable. So what's the alternative? Business, they say, is about finding and solving problems. True, but that's not the half of it. They don't really teach you how to find the problems. And I'd even argue that anybody looking for a problem, rather than perceiving a problem, is fundamentally misguided. It's a subtle difference, but an extremely important one. Business is about understanding an industry or a domain so well that you understand the pain points within that industry or domain. It's about becoming an expert in something, typically by accumulating a wealth of experience in that thing, but there are other ways, and then knowing exactly what it will take to fix it, make it better, or create an alternative that adds enough value to a consumer or customer's life such that they will change their behavior to adopt your new model, approach, solution. It is about understanding the intrinsic motivators, be they money, prestige, simplicity, or ease of use of a product, of every single player in a transaction. It is about understanding who in the transaction is unhappy or in desperate need of change, and then it is about modeling a solution that not only fits, but exceeds, the expectations of every one of those players. Then, on top of all of that, this perceived, understood, felt problem demands a profoundly simple solution. Notice too that I say, felt. Logic goes a long way in science. Logic is science. Math equals logic equals the scientific method. But in business, the only way thus far to understand the intrinsic motivations of every player in a game or transaction is to either feel them for yourself or fundamentally understand psychology, behavioral economics, and why people make decisions. The latter is much harder to find, much less robust and concrete, and typically involves a scientific approach which lacks the following element. You have to feel the pain. It sounds cliché, but not only is it fundamentally important to the perception and design of the solution, but it is also the motivator that pushes driven entrepreneurs through the massively fluctuating turmoils of a startup. The pain is what grounds you during the highs, and it is also the thing that keeps you going during the lows. When you start a business, there is a lot of things you need to know. However, you won't be able to learn a lot of these lessons until you actually get started on your business. The most effective way to learn business lessons before you get started is find a mentor. You don't need to personally know your mentors. There are so many people online that share their stories about what they have learned in business, but you need to learn about their business and find out about what mistakes they have made along the way. There are a lot of different concepts and ideas around the topic, but they are all pretty much different ways to explain the same thing. Think the key things you need to know before you start a business are: 1. Why you want to start a business. So many people overlook this seemingly obvious point. If you know why you want to start a business, it will keep you focused and motivated towards your vision when you have a bad day. 2. What your goals are. Until you know your goals, you won't know how to structure your business to achieve your purpose. 3. What problem you are solving. Businesses are effectively an exchange for a solution to a problem. 4. Your market. Find a niche and build your business around that market. Know what they want and need. 5. Nothing happens unless you take action. Waiting for the perfect timing will never happen. Create a plan and take the steps to make it happen. 6. What I really think that you should absolutely not only know, but be at peace with, is that this is hard. Starting your own business from scratch is hard. This basic concept that most first-time entrepreneurs know, but don't really keep in mind when working, is one of the biggest struggles you will face on your first time. 7. I don't want to discourage you from entrepreneurship at all. This is an incredibly great way to live your life, and if you really have the passion for it, it won't matter how hard or difficult something really is. 8. It's just something you really need to know in order to help you on your path to success. A lot of first-time entrepreneurs complain if things get more difficult and tricky than they anticipated. Some even stop altogether from what they're working on. So please keep this in mind. 9. It is supposed to be hard. Just think that if it was easy, wouldn't everybody have just done it? You're supposed to struggle, and face challenges on your way. That's supposed to happen. 10. So the number one thing I want you to know, is that you should never ever underestimate what you're doing. And be prepared for a tough ride. That way you're ready for anything that will come your way.